The Fujicast is an independent loading zone production.
Tuesday, 7th of April.
The Fujicast.
We got a very tired Kev, but he'll explain why in just a moment's time. Welcome to the Fujicast Daily. And usually he does that when I'm telling a story about Australia or something, but today, there was a very good...
Have you been done? Didn't know you've been to Australia.
Yeah, I've been to Australia. Did you not know that?
No.
I met Marcus Anderson, did a photo walk. Did you not know that? Welcome to the Fujicast Daily, a show about photography, a show which does include Fujifilm stuff and questions, yes, but also during this time of lockdown in most parts of the world. It's the stay-at-home show where you get to spend some time with me and Kev, talking about pictures and hearing about what and why you're shooting. We've got a couple of new ideas. It's only taken a couple of weeks. But a couple of things. We're going to have a new daily photo challenge as from today, where you can enter via the show's Fujicast Facebook group, which you're very welcome, and you will have to join if you want to take part in it. Very friendly place. No question is too daft. There are a few simple rules. One of them is very much don't post a picture and run. What do you call that? A mic drop picture.
Mic drop. Yeah.
So we don't want.
Although
those.
we're about to tell people to do exactly that.
Well, yeah, but in one place, you see, you can only enter the daily photo challenge in the allotted post only. If you enter outside the allotted post only, you will meet Auntie Delete Key. Friday we're going to have a new Bar Nuts quiz, 5 questions about this great thing called photography, and Kev's mountain of books you should buy when it's safe to spend money again feature. Couldn't think of another name for it. I think we're going to do that on Wednesdays. So there we go. So we had a production meeting, and that was what came out of it. Now, why are you tired?
Oh, I'm exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. So yesterday we decided to put a tent up in the garden for the kids.
Yeah,
which
nice.
was great.
Nice.
Great fun.
Yeah.
Really good fun when you can't find the pins and one of the poles is not quite as long as it should be, and it's really windy and the dogs are pissing up against it, and all that kind of stuff was loads of fun.
Don't tell me that Git was being a Git again.
Actually, he was okay.
Was he?
And then, of course, they wanted to sleep in it.
Yeah.
Through the night,
of course,
which is fun. He had a midnight feast, and I'll be being 7. I thought, well, if we go to bed and he gets spooked in the night, that's not going to be good. So I decided to work late, work in inverted commas, stare at my computer late, and just hang around in the living room, leave the light on, leave the back door open, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you didn't think to do a ghost story before they went to bed then?
No, because that would have scared me. And so all was well. I stayed up till about 4, kept going in and out to see them. Decided to leave my to lay my weary head down on the one remaining sofa that we've got that the dogs weren't taking over. Closed my eyes for a little bit, and then I thought, what's that noise? What I can hear something, and it was about 4:30 in the morning, and the kids were in the tent singing Frozen at the top of their voices, and I was like, bloody hell, we've got neighbours. A dog from the 2 doors away was growling, and I was like, oh my god, this is something out of a horror movie.
Oh, brilliant.
So off I plotted in my dressing gown and my slippers. Oi, you noisy stop singing. Oh, so we're wide awake, Dad. Oh, well, good, lucky for you. But then I traipsed back. It was raining at that point, of course, so I was in my dressing gown, just getting soaking wet. The tent's at the other end of the garden. The garden's pretty big. Went to lay my weary head down again, closed my eyes, opened it to the dulcet odour of Git's tongue slurping all over my cheek. Oh. Lovely. So I gave up then. So I've had about, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes sleep, I reckon.
You're going to sleep well tonight. Kev won't be here for tomorrow's show. He'll still be asleep.
It's all fun, though. That's what the kids will remember, right?
Yeah, well, somebody made this point the other day that the kids, obviously not for all children, clearly not for all children, but for some children, the lucky ones, they will remember this as time they spent with their loved ones. Not necessarily mums and dads, but it could be, wherever they're living, their guardians, their grandparents, their adopted parents, whatever they're doing. They will remember this time as time they spent more with those people. Yeah,
well, I hope that everybody does remember it, for what it is. And of course, you're right. There are some people that will want to forget it instantly as soon as they can. Yeah. But for everybody else, it must be long-living memory, and the things that people did for other people is very important that we remember that.
Can I ask you a question? It's a personal question. You don't have to answer it, but you know what I'm like with my health anxiety. Are you scared? as a bloke, Kev, are you scared about this? For your
about getting it?
No, we talked about the kids, talked about our wives and stuff like that. It's just a personal question, man to man now, in front of nobody else but all the people that listen to this podcast. Are you bothered by it?
Yeah, I think you'd be naive to say you weren't. I fear for my family, for my friends, my parents. Yeah. We've got elderly people in our family on both sides. Well, I say elderly, they'll go nuts if they hear me say that. But
you'll be in trouble.
Over the age of 70. Let's just put it that way.
Mature.
Mature, yeah. And yeah, of course, it's frightening. It's this is like my worst nightmare. If you ever speak to Gemma about what I was like when swine flu came along, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night and I was having a nightmare, and I was saying to Gemma, everybody's being evacuated from the street. Listen, you can hear them all. They're all being evacuated.
My God, you were having lucid dreams about it.
I was, yeah. Wow. It was really bad. And this is kind of like, everybody has a thing, don't they? Yeah. My thing was always like Contagion or something like that, and here we are living right in the middle of it. So, yeah, I mean, it's not nice. And am I fearful for my own health? Yes, of course, because, sadly, I know two people that have been gotted with it, one of which was younger than me. So, but, you can do you can only do what you can. We are, sorry, did you just hear that noise? That was Breezy shaking its shaking her tail very, very loudly. You can only do what you can, and we're being as careful as physically possible. Yeah. And I can only be thankful, really, that we live in an area that's pretty rural. I think that helps. And of course, there are people that are not in that position, and so they probably need to be a little bit more careful. So yeah, I don't know. I am worried. I am fearful. However, I have to say, fingers crossed, touching wood, touching everything. I'll even get the dog lick my nose. It does seem to be that the curves are bending around the world, which they have. Well, it's real, isn't it? They have to. So we shall see how it all pans out. But yeah, what about you?
Well, my health anxiety. Most of the time, there's me buoying you up and saying, "No, we're going to be okay. Nobody's going to be ruined. We'll be financial. We'll be okay." It'll be like Del Boy talking to Rodney. Next year, we'll all be millionaires. And you know that I do that with you, and then on the flip side, then I say, Kev, well, what about my high blood pressure? That I take tablets for, by the way, yes. And then I say, yeah, but sometimes my fingers go white. And what about circulation problem? I mean, it has brought out a real. It has made me think about it. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something that I said earlier when I was doing some mentoring with somebody. I don't know why we got onto this subject. They were talking about the podcast. And I said, I had considered, you're going to be horrified at this, by the way, I had considered making an episode with Kev, that what if one of us didn't get through, the final thoughts thing. It's a terrible idea, I know, but those ideas come to me in the dark sometimes.
Well, what?
I know. I know that deserves a... What the... It does, doesn't it?
Oh my God! Which one of us didn't get through?
No. I'm considering that we both would, but we would both have done our obituary messages.
Oh my Lord!
I know it's terrible. I know
that is really bad.
I know. I don't feel proud of that. I just don't.
Stop it.
I'm trying to. But I don't know. I had this thing about the message being done. But at least I've been honest.
Well, yeah,
even though you're horrified with the idea.
Yeah, I'm very horrified by the idea.
Note to self: don't put
that will not happen.
Don't put that in the meeting for Kev. But I'm laughing with gallows humour, by the way, folks.
If he makes it.
Not for any other reason. On that note, by the way, Tim Bender, love the show, guys. I have a Fuji question, but not what you would expect. What are your thoughts on Fujifilm creating a possible cure for the coronavirus? You've read about this, haven't you? Didn't we talk about Abigail?
Can I, 1 second, because I have to let the whippet out the living room, because she's going to...
Let the whippet out. Blimey, she's not sounding good. She's had a late night as well.
Easy, you pain in the arse. Bloody thing. Right.
At least Breezy gets the same as... So normally you speak to Git like that. normally everything Breezy does is fine. Oh, Breezy, come in. Oh, what's the matter, Dunny? Do you want a little stroke? Oh, come on, make you feel better. Get away.
Well, the good thing about Breezy is she will stand by the living room door and poke her nose at it and kind of whelp a little bit, and that tells me that she actually needs to go outside to to do things that dogs do in the garden. Okay. Whereas Monty would just go, I think I'll just do it. Yeah,
I fit.
It's like, door's not open, is it? I might as well just, get on with it.
I forget that Git actually has a name as well. Monty. I'd completely forgotten Git was called Monty. Come on. So Tim Bender's question about it was Avagan, isn't it? It's it comes under several names actually, but. You remember this going around in the Fujicast group, actually, the Facebook group, with people saying, have you heard about this? Because the share price leapt, didn't it, for Fujifilm at that time?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people, certainly in our kind of small circle, probably don't know about Fujifilm is that they are a huge pharmaceutical, cosmetic manufacturing company. Yeah. A lot of medical stuff going on. And in fact, kind of way back in time when when they were doing all of the film chemicals and all that kind of stuff, when that market dissolved, they used that knowledge to move into things like medical equipment and kind of chemical engineering and what have you. So yeah, I mean the digital, what we call the digital imaging department, which is cameras, is teeny in the grand scheme of things.
It's not a big part, is it? Well, no, it's sizable, but it's not the largest part by far.
Well, it's bigger than it used to be for sure, but yeah, it's only a small percentage. It's they do a lot of like medical endoscopes. I think they even do things like satellite, the lenses in telescopes and satellites and things like that. Anyway, back to the original question. The Avagan.
Yeah,
sounds like a ski resort in Scotland, doesn't it? I mean, I remember speaking to you about this probably 2.5 weeks ago, something like that, and it was something that was just in the small parts of the news, hadn't made the BBC because the BBC weren't reporting anything positive at all in those days. Right. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But then you read the small print of the thing, and it was like, only seemed to work. It was tested in China, only seemed to work on people where it was administered to before they showed symptoms, which is problematic. But now they seem to be rolling with it a bit more, and I think China are kind of getting on board.
The quote is from China. Avagan won its first approval for flu during the early days. An official of the country's Science and Technology Ministry has labelled it as clearly effective in treating COVID-19, adding that the agency has now recommended it to health authorities for consideration in its treatment guidelines. So it has ramped up a bit.
Yeah, I suppose it has, and what part of me thinks, well, that's good. I hope it is a real thing, like Tamiflu was for swine flu. But the other part of me thinks, I hope it's not just kind of desperate measures, and kind of let's just hope it works type thing. I'm not a doctor, am I? But they seem to be going all over the place in terms of we need to get a vaccine, we need to get a anti what they call it, when they can tell if you've had it or not.
The antibody test, yeah.
Yeah, we need to get an antibody test, and I'm like, well, which direction? If you go down the antibody test, surely you can't really do that until you know whether it's a long-standing, your body fights it off from a long-standing point of view. I know there's a bloody tiger in America who's gone and got it.
I know. I was thinking, how on earth? What have you been doing? Kissing the thing? You wouldn't be able to get that close to it, would you? I suppose its preparation of food might have been a problem.
Well, do you know what the first thing that went through my mind was?
Run.
No. How the hell did the tiger get a test when 99% of American people can't?
Do you know, that didn't even occur to me.
They tested 5 of them.
Yeah.
Two tigers, 3 lions.
That's right.
And they've all been properly tested. And I'm like, Yeah, let's think about this. So the zoo makes millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, probably because people come to look at the tigers and the lions. I know. Let's get them tested. Makes me grrr.
Should we leave the subject of coronavirus for a little while? Not everybody wants to talk about it. Dave Carroll. Hi, Neil. Hi, Kev. Thank you for making my journey to and from work. Oh, you're still going to work. More enjoyable in these dark days. You make me smile and sometimes laugh, occasionally. Love the interviews and the honesty of you both. Maybe we've been a bit too honest today. I don't know. Hope you don't mind. A little question for Kevin, as I know he has an unruly camera bag. Kevin, The Eyecups. What do you do to the Eyecups of the cameras to stop the rubber piece from being knocked off the plastic mount? Because I've had to do this to stop this from happening to me. Any tips? What do you mean you've had to do this? What have you done? Glue them on?
The last camera that I lost the Eyecup to was the XT2. I never lost the Eyecups to the XT1. I never lost the Eyecups to my XT2.
XT2 for me,
been fine.
I lost those. Yep.
X Pro has been fine. They're kind of circular screw-on ones. So I don't know. Yeah, you'll see. Some people seem to lose their Eyecups immediately, and others seem to have very longevity with their Eyecups. I seem to have longevity. I've never replaced one.
Never?
No.
Okay. All right.
The ones when it did go off my XT1, I didn't even notice it. I remember being on a trip somewhere, a workshop, and somebody said, "Oh, you've lost your Eyecup as well." And I was like, "Have I?" And they went, "Yes, it's meant to look like this." I was like, "Oh, right." I don't wear spectacles, so I think if you wear spectacles, the Eyecup is more important.
Right. The Daily Photo Challenge. So we'll start this today. So in the Facebook group already, you may well have seen this posted. The Daily Photo Competition. So this won't be a complete surprise to you, if you were up early, that is. So we need to set this. Now, you can only, let me underline this, only post this in the post where it says Daily Challenge and gives you what day it is and what we're asking for. There is no prize, but just being, should we vote our favorite? Yeah, we'll vote our favourite one, but there is no prize for it. The prize is just being part of community, which God knows we need these days, don't we, Donald?
Don't be a cutie pie.
Sorry. So, go on then. What's today's?
So today's will be, get your Vivian Mayer skills together. So we want to see a self-portrait through a mirror, a reflective self-portrait. That's what we want to see.
And be careful as well. I'm just putting that caveat in for people like...
How can that be dangerous? That can't possibly be dangerous.
I can see what Lee Glasgow would do with a mirror self-portrait, couldn't you?
Yeah, Lee, it has to be a self-portrait of your face.
He's the only exception, by the way. Everybody else do what you want, but we know Lee much better than that. Okay.
Yeah, there we go then. So self-portrait through a mirror or something reflective. So we're looking for pictures of you.
Yeah, and you can join by going to the FujiCast Facebook page. Come in, join us. The water feels warm. Hi, Kevin Neil. This one's from Paul Gallagher. Listening to the daily episodes. Question probably for Neil, but I think it's aimed at you as well, Kev, is about the audio on the Daily Show. Considering you're now sat in different places, we are, by the way, we are not together. When was the last time we were together?
About 12 years ago.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean...
Oh, I see. Well, there was that night in Benidorm, wasn't there? Yeah. No, I don't know. It was.
I'm sure your name was Charlotte. I couldn't...
4 weeks ago?
Yeah, God, yeah, unbelievable. So we're not together. Now, Kev's in Upper Malmesbury, because there is an upper and a lower, and you're definitely an upper. You live in the posh part of it.
Well, we live on the hill.
That's true. And I'm near Newbury. Anyway, you're doing the remote. How are you doing the remote aspect of the audio? So this really is for you, because you set the gear up, not me. I just Skype you out there. So what are you using, Kev? Because Paul likes it very much. He's thinking about putting together a podcast himself, and he's intrigued as to how you can sound so good when you're remote.
Well, I mean, when I listen back to the shows, I can definitely tell that I'm not in your palatial studio with your big furry hairy thing hanging in front of me. Instead, I'm in my living room, which is not particularly acoustically great, I have to say. I've got a window in front of me.
Oh, I thought you were in the bedroom.
No, God, no. Oh. No. The internet doesn't reach up there.
Oh.
No, because our walls are about 100 feet thick, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, your house is never, ever warm in the summer.
No, I've got a heater. I've got a little foot heater I put on in the living room, even though outside in the back garden it's 20 degrees. Anyway, so I'm using a Yeti, what's it called? A Blue Yeti. Yeah, Blue Yeti microphone.
Right.
It's just simple USB plugged into my PC. And on top of it, I have got a gift from Neil, my Christmas present from Neil. Believe it or not, this is how our friendship goes. Is an Alctron PF8 muffler.
It's just
is that what you'd call it?
It's a really good. If you put it on top of a mic, you have to have the right shaped microphone, and the Yeti is one of them. But you put this. It's like a huge, great big. I suppose it's the audio version of a Gary Fong Dong, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's amazing how many people stand at my window and look, because it sits in my windowsill in the living room.
What the hell is that? Is that a cat?
Loads of people just stop and stare at it. It's really funny. And then they notice me sat at the desk and then they jump out of their skin.
Yeah, it's just got a great big foam, but there's loads of foam at the back and there's a less foam at the front, which means that you're essentially trying to set up some sort of so the sound doesn't bounce backwards, so you get all this echo. It's supposed to cut down on the echo so it doesn't sound so lively. Yeah, yours sounds a bit more lively. But then that's not surprising because I've got lots of sound treatment in here. But that's not bad, though. I think your house sounds really quite close, I think.
I think it's reasonable, isn't it? Considering, what we're having to do. Mm. So, yeah, that's all it is a Blue Yeti microphone. And they are... I don't know. I've had this probably 6 or 7 years now, so there may be newer versions of it, but I think it's reasonably priced, kind of 180 quid type price.
Just USB'd into your computer, isn't it? That's all.
Just USB, yeah. No, nothing else. You just plug it in, and then it just pops up as a microphone source. And it's very good.
What do you use for your YouTube when you're doing
YouTube? I use I got No Sleep and No Thought.
NTG, is it an NTG?
Oh yeah, a Rode NTG something.
Right.
Quite an expensive
one. Is it the 3? Is it the silver one or the black one?
I've got 2. One, it's the one that will work off phantom power as well as charge.
I think you're talking about the NTG 3, which has a lovely warm sound.
Yeah, I have that, and obviously I have that goes into a box, a little red box. I can never remember the name of via those 3-pin plug things.
XLR. Yeah. So
it's like having a conversation with my granddad.
I'll fill this bit in then, Granddad. During the war, what we do is we take the wire from the microphone. It goes into a sound card. Which is the red thing, via an XLR cable, comes out of that sound card.
No, it's not a sound card, it's a special box. It's a special red Tascam, I want to call it.
Oh, is that not effectively being the sound card, though, for you? Oh, no,
it's being the memory card in it.
Sorry, it's being the preamplifier, isn't it?
Preamp, that's it.
And then out of there into your computer.
Via an SD card, yeah.
I'm glad I asked you.
Oh, yeah, I know. God, thinking back to that.
All right, one final thing, then we've got the interview. It's turned into a really long episode. Reference episode 69, yada, yada, yada. During the people don't even bother saying hi, guys. They just go yada, yada, yada now. This one's from Andy Stonia, friend of the show, definitely now. During the questions at the end of Ep 69, I'm catching up. Kev said he wouldn't take a camera to Auschwitz, and I completely agree. I visited the Pearl Harbor Memorial. I didn't know this, by the way, Kev, where you stand on a platform above a sunken but visible USS Arizona. I didn't know that was still there. There are still over 1,000 sailors and Marines on board that wreck. It's a sombre and still place kept quiet by the US Marines on guard. Although everybody else is taking snaps and selfies, this really is a time and a place to just pop that camera away and stand and be respectful, which I would agree with that. You said you wouldn't probably go back to Auschwitz, would you?
Oh, well, I've never been to Auschwitz, but the conversation we had was about kind of a tourist photography there.
Oh, yes.
That was it.
Yes.
And I think the point I was making was I think there is a place for photography for a purpose, obviously, for history making and stuff, but certainly not for... I wouldn't go to somewhere like that and just for holiday snaps or selfies or anything like that, So, I think me and Andy are on the same wavelength there, but your mileage may vary. As he says.
That's another one of your... It's got to be a T-shirt worthy phrase. Your mileage may vary, and also yada, yada, yada. See? All these... Merch. Yeah, but they're all yours, Kev. They're TM Kev Mullins, part of the show. Anyway, so to today's hangout. Tony Reidsma is an American photographer who was due to be on an episode entirely dedicated to personal projects, but as we've gone daily for the moment, some of the specials we were planning to have become neat little hangouts, really, ideal for the daily. So Tony's day job in marketing involves time spent for clients in nature and the outdoors, which has been perfect for his photographic passion projects about some of the harshest winters on Lake Michigan, his photo essays of moving dunes, and his study of light, shadow and patterns in the wilds. Now, some of his site is under new construction, but you can see much of what you need to as the projects are still accessible, and you'll see the website address obviously in the show notes. So let's talk about personal projects. whilst understanding that in many countries right now, and hopefully not for too long, the privilege of being able to immerse yourself in nature wherever and whenever you feel like is a fortune not afforded us all legally or ethically right now. And there's a sentence I probably thought I'd never deliver quite like that. So bear in mind as you listen to a segment recorded before the shutters came down and the barriers were swept across some outstanding areas of beauty car parks the world over, but hopefully it'll inspire you to think about your own projects, be that eventually outside again or maybe even inside, documenting the day-to-day as a legacy feature. Tony Reidsma is a self-taught photographer who specialises in fine art photography from, as you say in your bio, beach sunsets to spring tulips. But you're not full-time. You're in marketing right now, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, that I make my living. I have a marketing firm that I've owned and run for 20 years.
So what's more your passion now, the photography or the marketing firm? I guess the one that pays the bills.
Yeah, by necessity, it's the marketing, and I do have a passion for it. And I don't know how much detail you want, but my passion, it really lies in agriculture, and that's my specialty in terms of marketing. And I have a passion for helping farmers and people in agriculture have a voice.
When did the photography bug bite?
Well, I'm dyslexic, and throughout my whole time in school, grade school, all the way through to high school, I had a hard time reading. And so I was just naturally drawn towards learning visually. I didn't know why back then, but as in my mid-20s or so, I picked up a camera, a film camera, Pentax K1000, and learned to take pictures. And about 10 years ago, I had a client ask me if I could go shoot a video for them. And I didn't know a whole lot at that point, but I got on YouTube and learned as much as I could before the job. And the rest is history, as they say. So
I spotted in one of your videos, funnily enough, the fact, I think you're a Sony shooter, are you?
Yeah, I guess I started with a Canon 6D and 70D, sold that off and got the Sony A7S when it was first launched. I got bit by the Fuji bug and got a couple of XT2s. I wasn't happy with the video autofocus with those, so I sold those and I got a couple of A7Rs. So I currently have two A7R 2 bodies, an A7 II, 3 Fuji XH1s, and a XT2.
The XH1s, of course, are perfect for your video work, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking at your personal projects, because that's what this show is all about, and I think Frozen in Time was possibly one of the first, wasn't it? I mean, you started this at a time when Lake Michigan had a couple of years that were pretty much record-breaking cold years. That weren't the easiest way to start, were they?
Well, yeah. In my book, the first thing I say is I hate winter, and instead of complaining about it, I decided to grab my camera and go out into it. And I literally went out almost every day just to look for things to photograph. I always want to have something like that going on, a personal project, because the things that I learned, you can't teach it in schools and that kind of thing, traditional education. The delicate balance between the highlights reflecting off the ice and the harsh contrasts and dealing with those. And honestly, one thing I learned through that project was embracing the shadows instead of trying to recover them all the time, because it's very difficult to capture both when you've got light reflecting off of ice.
It's interesting because you said you went out. You don't like the cold. You went out. You started making photographs. So it sounds to me like you didn't have a personal project in mind when it started. So the personal projects always come out maybe of your adventuring. That the project follows your shooting rather than going out thinking, right, this is Frozen in Time. This is what I've planned. It didn't happen that way.
Absolutely not. You're right. And so I had no goal in mind other than to get out and learn photography. And what came out of it was I had a few solo exhibitions where I printed some really large canvas prints and had a few shows where people came in to learn about the photography, mainly the story actually behind the photography. And then I ended up printing a book, not like a Snapfish kind of book, but a printed book at a printing company with a hardbound book and nice velvety laminated cover. It's a fine art book, but it's also a little bit of history and documentary tied in.
Yeah, actually, you do get quite technical with graphs and data, and I love the way you, when talking about the Sands of Time project now, where you swipe to reveal pictures on your site to show 2013 compared to today. You're quite a data-driven man with these projects, aren't you?
Yeah, and it all comes to telling the story. I mean, bottom line is anybody can take a picture, and whether it's a smartphone or what have you, but it's, what are you trying to say? And just like how you and Kevin with your photography at weddings, you're telling a story, and I'm trying to tell a story, a visual story. And so yeah, the project Sands of Time came out of the Frozen in Time. I actually didn't have either of the projects, or I didn't have the Sands of Time project in mind until 2014, when I noticed the lake rising, and along with the rising of the lake, there's erosion, and the erosion was uncovering some seawalls and jetties that were built in the early 80s, because in 1986, the lake was at a record high. And so when the lake comes up, it exposes the seawalls, and I thought those were interesting. And then the lake will eventually start receding, and after it recedes, the sand will come back and cover all those seawalls again.
So tell me how you, it sounds to me like all of these projects that you've got Frozen in Time, there's Sands of Time, there's about 4 or 5 different projects, aren't there? There's Edge of Light and Nature on the Move. Nature on the Move was fascinating as well, watching the sands actually enveloping buildings. So they all sound to me like you go out there, you make your pictures, and you let the project come in. And that's the way you did it then, and that's still the way you do it now. So for people listening thinking, well, I've got to find myself a title, that's not necessarily the way you start a personal project.
No, not at all. And that's nature, right? And you can't tell it what to do. And so I'm fortunate enough to live in an area that's it's got lots of natural things, dunes. In fact, the Nature on the Move is actually going to be, I started the project photographing Silver Lake Dunes, which is about an hour north of where I live, which is a 2,000 acre dune on Lake Michigan. But as I was researching it a little bit more, come to find out, Lake Michigan has the largest freshwater dune system in the world. And so depending on the winds that push the dunes will move anywhere between 2 to 6 feet a year in any certain direction. And that's what's happening up at Silver Lake. It swallowed up a cottage last year, and it's going to do the same to the cottage next door this year.
Some of the dunes, when you look at your pictures, they could be pictures taken in Africa, not Lake Michigan. I must admit, I was surprised by the geography of the place.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Yeah. I like to go there just to see the changes in the dunes, because every time I go there, there's something different, because the winds have shifted the dunes and its placement.
How much personal pleasure do you get out of making these projects, Tony?
Depends on the time of year. If I'm shooting in the winter, it's very little. I don't enjoy it much at all. But it as a complete project, I can't imagine doing anything else. If I could do just personal projects, I mean, this sounds stupid to say, because I think everybody would say the same. If I could do this as a living, I would in a heartbeat.
Are you successfully selling prints?
Yeah, my site actually is still under construction. I don't have time to work on the store much. The majority of my print sales are very large canvas prints, either single large photo or a large panoramic in the form of a triptych, which is 3 images when they're put next to 3 canvases, and when you put them next to each other, they form 1 image.
Yeah.
People seem to gravitate towards those, and usually the prints are 80 inches wide or so by 60 inches tall. The majority of that is for corporate clients, for their offices and that kind of thing. That they're building a new building and what have you, and they need to decorate it with something, and they want prints that reflect the area.
What advice, Tony, finally, for photographers do you have who haven't put a personal project into action? Because right now in the world, and this could be a perfect time to start one. It's madness, it seems, out there. To keep those creative muscles flexed, this could be a good time, couldn't it?
Okay, so I don't know about if this is a great time to do it or not versus another time, because I don't really get into the photography like documenting an event socially. I've never done that, and I don't gravitate towards that. I gravitate more towards nature, but I would dare say there's never a bad time to do it, because I'm just naturally driven to want to learn more and to push myself to learn more. I mean, I'm not much into gear, even though I've got too many cameras, if you ask my wife. But I shoot almost all vintage lenses.
Do you?
I mean, I do have some modern glass. And honestly, the vintage lenses really help to, I don't want to sound cliche, but it makes me more part of the image making. I think I sent you and Kevin 2 pictures, one taken with my A7R2 and a 24 millimeter Zeiss, and XH1 with a Nikkor 24.
Yeah.
I was hard pressed to see a big difference. I mean, granted, I shot them both at like f11 or something like that, so they're both going to be sharp. There's no bad time to start a project. Let the process of taking photos guide your project. Now, if you have something in mind, don't get too analytical about it. It'll pass by if you're not careful. And just go out there and start taking pictures.
If you'd like to see Tony's work, go to tonyreidsma.photography. That's Tony Reidsma, REIDSMA.photography, and you can see his site. And remember, as we said at the start, this interview was recorded just before the world changed in terms of social distancing, complete freedom of movement, either on legal grounds or otherwise. So in planning and making your personal projects, think of others, think of yourself, stay safe, and work within the law. And that's it for today's FujiCast. Release your inner Vivian Maier. What's today's photo challenge again, Kev? Go on.
Self-portrait with a mirror. That's you and a mirror. A mirror and you. When you look in the mirror, you shall see you. No one else. You.
Oh, you can't have anybody else in it?
No. That wouldn't be a self-portrait, would it? It'd be a group shot. You know what I think about group shots.
Yeah, that might have to be a photo challenge all of its own another day. All right. Kev, I'll talk to you tomorrow then.
Okay, I'll try and get some sleep.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.